is an honor to be here. And I think what a great intro to kind of represent 30 years of coaching, 30 years of marriage, and a chance for me to kind of share with you those that have had impact on me. And I think this talk was really about kind of how to build good teams, and you'll find out that building good teams comes from within, comes from the heart of the man within. And kind of give you a sense of who's talking to you first would be a better way to put it. Because I think all of us could come up here and have just a conversation about our lives and the way that they've kind of grown and changed over the years. So I just celebrated 30 years this last Monday, by the way. It was pretty amazing. Thank you. Married to my college sweetheart, Wendy. Long story short, I was a freshman in my dorm room playing Tecmo Bowl, and the sophomore kept walking by my dorm room like she's got cute hair, she's got a green leather jacket on, and she's from Portland, Oregon. Got to know her. We got married my senior year, and this represents my family. I have 3 kids. My youngest is adopted. We were foster parents to 24 kids until he came along our way. Older daughter has made me a grandpa 3 times over already. So just life is very full in that regard. And by the way, there's a picture of me in an A&M shirt down here. I was lucky enough, I've never been to an A&M game or an Alabama game, and A&M was playing Alabama a few years ago, and A&M beat Alabama at the very game I was at. So it was pretty amazing to see that experience. I put my company title at the top. I'm the co-founder of the Better Fundraising Company. We're a consulting firm that works with charities across North America. We have a team of about a dozen people that help charities both large and small, and we just really have a heart to serve the community through teaching, training, and helping charities. So that's kind of just a quick map of my life. Live in Edmonds, been coaching football at Kings for now 30 years. This will be my 30th year at the same school, the very place, my alma mater. In fact, I got people in the room. I played football with John Gableline. He's in the back. John, he was our tackle. Sitting next to Paul Tomlinson, whose son played for us as well. And so it's fun to see just generations of men that I have known over the years in this very room. Tom Caccione, you knew me when I was in diapers, Tom. And also Sam Bika for me is a very near and dear place. I was 12 years old when I attended this camp, and I found Jesus right here on this very campus when I was 12 years old. So it's a very cool space to be in for me, a reunion time. A lot of stories can be told about people in these pictures, but we'll move on from my story into hopefully a little bit of yours. Kings football, for me, it's interesting to hear Kalen DeBoer and the way he talks. Our whole purpose and passion through football is to build champions while pursuing championships. It is truly about building up the young men, helping them go from 14-year-old punks to 18-year-old men. They walk in, they're small, they're tiny, they don't really know what's going on, and you get them through the process of football for 4 years, where it's hit or get hit. It's one of the best sports, because I tell my kids that the things you do on Friday night, you would get arrested for on Saturday down at the 7-Eleven if you tried to do it to someone. And so football is still one of those sports where it's hit or get hit. You get to bleed a little bit, get to sweat a little bit. And I think what's missing in our society is adversity in people's lives. I think what's missing in our society is a little bit of tough love. I think what's missing in our society is a little bit of my back's against the wall, it's 4th down, what are we going to do? And football, for me, was one of those sports that allowed me to kind of learn those principles. And so I've been trying to teach that over the years at Kings through the great vehicle of football. And I think it gives us one of those spaces and places to really teach those things to these young men. So I have hope for our generations. I have hope for the future. I have hope for you because of the things that I'll be able to share with you this morning through my life and through some of the stories that I'm going to share with you. So this is mostly going to be storytelling. With a little bit of application that I hopefully you can take home. And I put these things up here not to say, hey, look at my success, but it's more of the matter of that hard work does pay off. Played for Frosty Westering down at PLU, won a national championship back in the early 90s. We've had a chance to compete for championships at Kings. My greatest honor actually at Kings is we won 11 academic state championships. These kids can put the books to work and put the football to work. It's a pretty cool spot to coach. It's located in North Seattle, Shoreline area. Come by on a Friday night. Would love to have you. Join me on the sidelines. Let me know you're coming. You can watch some football next fall. So we'll go next slide. So the first question I have for you is, who in your life, and I want you really to think through this, who in your life has been an impact player for you? Someone in your life spoke truth into your life at some point and had a dramatic change in your life. In fact, I should have put Chris Clark's picture up here. He was the 19-year-old counselor at this very camp who led me to Jesus. He was an impact player. My dad, by the way, Jim Shapiro, in fact, you can go online. I think it's called The Windermere Way. You can go Google The Windermere Way. There's a little online book that you can read about Windermere real estate and just the growth of Windermere. My dad was tells a great story of where John Jacoby, who was the founder of Windermere, had like 3 or 4 offices. Think about how big Windermere is nowadays. He had 3 or 4 offices in the local region. They were fraternity brothers, and John said, my dad was looking for work. He was out of work. He just got let go. He was at the bottom of his barrel. He meets with John, and John says, Jim, why don't you help me take this little real estate company and franchise it? An idea. My dad tells a story. He took a yellow pad of paper and a pencil, and John said, figure out how to franchise this thing. Now, Windermere's in, I don't know how many states, 13 states with, thousands of reps. And so for me, my impact player is my dad, not because he helped build Windermere, but because of, and I'll share later on, some stories about how he impacted my life as a father, as he did some things that were intentional. So we'll come back to my dad's story. But again, I'd encourage you to Google The Windermere Way. You can hear the story of Windermere real estate. My dad was a part of that. In the middle is Pastor Ken Hutchison. He was my pastor for many years at Antioch Bible Church. If you know anything about Ken, he was a linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, linebacker for the Seahawks. This man was probably the most bold man I have ever met. He looked the part. The dude was tough. He was big. He had pit bulls. He was kind of the man's man. He had big trucks. He had big guns. He loved prime rib in the morning. And the things about Hutch were what you might see in the front was not what you got in the back office. The man was loving. He was caring. He was direct. And I'll share with you a little bit more about Ken in the future here in our little talk, because I want us to be bold like lions. I think the world needs some lions on the prowl for good things in our world, to stand up for what is right, and Hutch would stand up for what was right. And he would speak it, and sometimes you'd hate him because he spoke it, but he was speaking the truth in love. I would challenge us to be bold like lions. Be a linebacker, okay? Not a kicker. Be a linebacker, okay? Yeah. And then last but not least is my college football coach, Frosty Westering. I played 2 years of football down at Azusa Pacific University, and then I transferred to Pacific Lutheran University and played for Frosty Westering. Frosty has since passed away, but if you look up and Google the name Frosty Westering, you'll find his name on the top 20 all-time collegiate coaches for wins. We're talking with Bear Bryant and others. Frosty is there. He'd be known for his wins. He'd be known for his national championships. But if you really got to know Frosty, it was a man who used love, not fear, to motivate. We're going to come back to that as well, because I think in our world, we can use fear. I can kick you in the butt. I can tell you what to do. I can cuss at you. That's fear. I want to encourage you to use love as a motivator. And sometimes that's tough love, but there's love that's needed in our world. And I think we can be a composite of this: servant leader, bold like a lion, and yet deliver a lot of goodness in the way of love. All right, we're going to come back to these guys, come back to these stories, but I want you to think about who in your life has been an impact player. I'm going to put that in your brain, because later on this morning and this day, you can probably go back and learn a little bit from your impact player. Okay? So we'll go next slide. Thanks for doing that in the back, by the way. Appreciate it. So the second question I want you to ask yourself is, how many teams are you a part of? If you think about, I'm not talking like, men's soccer leagues or bowling leagues. I'm talking about how many other teams are you a part of? And I just made a real simple list of my life, and I think your list would probably be relatively the same. I think the priority is my marriage, my wife. If things aren't going right with my wife, things are not going right. It's just simple. My work's not going to go well. My relationships with my kids aren't going to go well. My football teams, I can tell you story after story where I show up to practice and the kid's like, why are you so mad? I'm like, I don't know. I know, it's because my wife and I are not in a good spot. If things are not going well in my marriage, the rest of this list is not going to go well, okay? But here's just a good reflection of the teams that I'm a part of and how they are interconnected. I think as men, we do a great job segmenting things. I can go to work from 9 to 5. I can drop my keys off and unplug and go home. And then I'm a dad, and then I'm a mom, a husband to my wife. And then, I'm a football coach. And we put these things into segments. And my butt has got chewed more times because I leave one segment and go to the next and didn't connect the two. My wife's like, where are you? I'm like, well, I'm right here, honey. She's like, you're listening, but you're not hearing me. Why? Because I'm thinking about how to run the cover 4 versus that spread offense next week, and it's driving me nuts. That's what I'm thinking in my brain while I'm trying to be present with my wife. Or I go to work and I'm trying to be a good leader of my team, and they're like, man, what is wrong with you today? I'm like, I'm fine, I'm great. Like, no, you're not. Why? Well, you know what? I kind of yelled at my kid today as I tried to get his little butt out of the car to go to school today, and I feel really bad about it. These things are interconnected, and we need to recognize that these things are interconnected. So I'm not going to have you write all these things down, but I want to challenge you to think back to the previous slide. Who is your impact player? Go home today and write it down. Someone in your life had impact, 2 or 3 people. I want also to encourage you to go down and write these circles down on a piece of paper. I'm a dad. That's a team. I'm a husband. I'm a son. I'm a worker. I'm a coach. I'm a friend. And you will find that you are part of a lot of teams. And what I want you to do with those circles is then rate them on 1 to 10. Put a 1 in the middle. This thing is at the bottom of the barrel. It's a 1. This thing's a 10. And identify where your teams are. And a lot of the reflection of you'll see in that is when you have 2s and 3s within the circle, it's not about your team, it's about you. I have coached football teams that have gone 0 and 10. I have coached teams that have gone 10 and 0. And it's usually a reflection of me on down to the coaching staff, on down to the kids, on why those things are rated where they are or the outcomes are where they are. Okay, so that's a challenge for you, is to kind of look through the teams that you're a part of and to reflect on kind of how you're doing and rating those things. All right? The mindset around team development, again, is going to be mostly focused on you, but there's some questions you need to be asking yourself as you kind of look at the type of life you want, the type of outcomes you desire, the things that you're driving towards. It's a simple list that I made here. Okay, you can create the team you want to be a part of, hands down. And I tell this to my football kids all the time. We break our teams up into linebackers and receivers and offensive line. And there's been times where we've had just a bunch of jugheads at linebacker. These guys are just not great kids. Okay, they don't work very hard. But then I got one in there. And this guy's a butt kicker. He's an A student. He's there every day. And Johnny would come to me and say, Shap, what is going on? My linebacker core is just not... I said, Johnny, take care of yourself. Show up early. Find a freshman and have him show up early with you. We can be a contagion within our group, in this case, my linebacker example, that can change the culture. And I've seen it time and time and time again. We get so focused on what others are doing or not doing, and we don't take care of our own business. Do the best you can do. Who can you control? You. Okay? Whose schedule can you manage? Yours. Whose attitude can you manage? Yours. Okay? Let's not let others affect us. Let's be the infection that changes the core of our team. Okay? Create the culture that builds up others. We have a simple phrase in our football team: either you're going to put up or you're going to shut up. Flat out. That's it. Either put up or shut up. And if I hear anyone saying anything negative, I'm going to tell you to shut up. We also have another rule. If you swear, it's going to be 200 yards per letter. Pick a short word. Okay? And I've done my fair share after a Friday night. I have run my 800. Okay? The whole point is the language, the culture, the mindset, the things we say to ourselves, the things we say to others builds the environment that we're looking for. So build the culture that builds others up. Put up or shut up. Take that back to your circles. Take that back to your teams. Take that back to your wife. Not to tell her to shut up, but for you to shut up. Okay? Put up or shut up. Try and be an encourager to others. Okay? Set the standards that can really help hold people accountable. One of the phrases that I love to use with our kids is, I love you enough to hold you accountable. Flat out. Really, Shap? Yes, I do. And you're going to go run now, or you're going to be held accountable now because I love you enough. Not because I want to, be full of fear and drive you around, but I love you. I've used it with my kids. I love you enough to hold you accountable. You could have made a better choice. The Lord does that with me. I love you enough to hold you accountable. He's not going to let me off. We're going to be held accountable in a wide variety of ways. Okay? Another mindset. I'm planting these little seeds, these little sayings that I've been taught and I've been teaching with others. The longer you play, the better you get. The longer you try, the better you get. This world is full of absolute quitters. Flat out. Flat out. We've taken adversity out of our lives. We'll quit when we can. The transfer portal is an absolute freaking mess. Like, it's ridiculous. Stay where you're at, do the work, and never give up. Never give in. On the scoreboard, it is never over until that scoreboard reads 0, 0, 0 on the clock. Okay, we had a football game. We were down by 3 touchdowns with 2.5 minutes left, and we won. We could have quit. We could have lost. But we never quit. Longer you play, the better you get. I think that's with age. We get wiser with age. Also with our commitment, our teams, the things that we're doing. You never know the breakthrough that's around the next corner if you don't make it around the next corner. Longer we play, the better we get. Surround yourself with sage advisors. I think that's just a really simple, this is it. This is a sage advisor group, things that we can join these 17 different groups that are going on. Find people that have been there before you. Find people to walk with you. And then the last is a little story about, there's a difference between being a Christian who coaches and a Christian coach. Actually, I'm going to save this story for later, but I learned that. I went to Azusa Pacific University where there was a Christian who was coaching, and he was a total jerk. total pain in my butt. The guy had no sense. Once he got on the football field, he left everything that he believed at home in his locker. Went to PLU, and there was a Christian coach on the field. This guy would still love it. He would still hold you accountable, but he brought his faith, his truth, his morals, his ethics to the football field. Let's be careful that we're not leaving some things in the locker as we take on the day, as we take on the work day. Okay? So little nuggets along the way. We'll go to the next slide here. So I'm going to give you a couple building blocks, and these building blocks are pretty simple, pretty elementary, but as I look at my life over 30 years, these are the core building blocks that have really changed my life. The first one is God, okay? I want you to know that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. Flat out. God does not make mistakes. You are not a mistake.
Right.
When I talk to my football kids, I get about 80 kids. We're a small school, but we get a really good turnout. I talk to my guys. I got 5'0", 100 freshmen showing up, and I got 6'4", 280, going somewhere guys on my team. And I look at them all and say, you are beautifully and wonderfully made. Every single one of you has a role on your team. Every single one of you has a responsibility to your team. So I want you to hear from my voice to your ears. God is telling you this morning, you are beautifully and wonderfully made. You are not a mistake. Not a mistake. Okay? I would say that for me, my relationship with Jesus is the number one thing. And I know some of us here, are followers, some of us aren't. But the reality of it is for me that when I found my faith in Christ, my whole world just opened up. And I know it kind of sounds cliche, but when there's a purpose that's greater than you, when there's a power that's greater than you, when there's a God that is greater than you, a lot of things become manageable. A lot of things become reasonable. A lot of things become understood. And so as you walk your journey in life, I hope that you can find Christ and the meaning that he is to me. I think the thing I want to leave on this slide is this, and it's one of these things that for me in my evolution of my walk, I accepted the Lord when I was 12. I really kind of came to understand him when I was in college. And it wasn't until I was almost 40 years old that I actually got baptized. It took me that long to understand kind of my faith in the Lord. And it's a really simple reminder, because I think we've heard the scripture before where he stands at the door and he knocks. And I heard that for years. And I thought that was at the point where God's going to grab my heart. When I was 12 years old, he knocked, I answered, and off I go. And what I've realized is that, guess what? He is always standing at the door and knocking. What do you do when someone knocks at the door? You open it. Something's behind there. Hopefully something good. And what I want to kind of encourage you with is that this knocking doesn't stop. We need to open that door again, engage. Open that door again, engage. Open that door again and engage. And so that visual for me is just a great reminder of that our walk with God, our pursuit of God, the opportunity to hear God is always there. You can go throughout Scripture and he is always there. He never forsakes. He never leaves. And it's our job. There's a responsibility, a role for us as we go through our walk with the Lord to figure out it's not a one-time opportunity. It's a real opportunity. Okay? So we'll go next slide. I have a crazy story, and I'm not some crazy guy from Edmonds that is crazy and wacko. But this story, it blew me awake when I experienced it. And I want to share it with you because I think it's one of those moments where I think we've all been. So here's the backdrop. To the right is Barnes Island. It's actually north of Orcas Island. One of our families owns this island. The founders of Trident Seafood, which is one of the largest seafood companies in the world. They actually have this beautiful 60-foot landing craft that takes all the football team up there. We get to this remote island. I think it's almost 40 acres of remote nothing. It's just an island, sticks, dirt. They have a little barn we can sleep in, and that's it. I take these kids up to this breakaway retreat because this is the time we're going to have together. We're going to bond. We're going to be together. And keep in mind, I'm Coach Shap. I'm the guy that has my crap together. I'm the guy that's going to be the spiritual leader of this group. I'm the guy that's going up there to help this team bond. We do this every year. But this particular year, about 13 years ago, I was broken. I was lost. I was living in my sin. My marriage was in ruins. And it was an absolute crap show. It was an absolute mess. I was lost. But hey, I'm Coach Shap. I got to have my stuff together. Okay? So I'm running this retreat. I'm working with these guys. I'm doing all these things, and it's a bunch of BS. Like, I am up here doing what I'm doing right now, and my heart is just broken. I am lost. We've all been there, I think, at some point. Maybe some of you are here right now. The very end of this retreat, third day, this beautiful island, by the way, and the end of the island points up to Canada. It's this beautiful, open kind of Puget Sound ocean. And I get up in the morning. I don't know why, really. I do now. I get up and start walking the island. And I'm talking to God. I'm saying, God, I'm a mess. I'm a fraud. I'm a fake. I'm a loser. I'm a horrible husband. I'm going through all these things. And then I started turning the story into, screw you, God. Where are you? I'm literally cussing out the Lord. Not a smart thing to do. I'm upset. I'm broken. I'm in tears. And I'm walking this island. And I'm walking. And I'm cussing. And I'm calling out God going, you have abandoned me. You have forsaken me. And I get to the end of this island. And I wish I had a visual of it. But there's this little spit. It's about, think of this like rocks, little beach, a little spit kind of looking out. And I walk down this little cliff across these rocks. And I go out looking at the water. And I'm just like, God, show up. All I need you to do is show up. I'm calling him out. Show up. And I see a seal pop his head above the water. Well, maybe that's God. Okay, how you doing? I see the bald eagle go across. Okay, maybe that's God. How you doing? I'm trying to find from a human perspective, where is the Lord? And so I take a deep breath. I feel better. I have my moment. Okay, I got that off my chest. I am honest as the sun's rising. I walk back across the very beach that I had walked. And there on the beach, bigger than my arm span, is a Jesus fish laid out in perfect, it wasn't this fish, it wasn't in red, but in perfect stones was the shape of the Jesus fish. They used to write that in the sand to say, here's where a believer's been. They leave a mark for the person walking by. It's massive. It is huge. And I looked at it and I just started bawling. I'm like, what the heck happened? So here's my story. And we can rationalize it either way. I have a vision of me calling out to God and just cussing him out. And I think Christ himself was behind me laying the stones, snickering, going, dude, I am right here. I am right here. The rational person could say, well, someone on my team or some human had laid those things down. I didn't notice it. And I'm still good with that answer too, because I didn't notice it. And I still turned around and God knew that I would need that sign from him that he was going to be there for me. It transformed my life. It's like God will never forsake me. He will never leave me. It's a beautiful story of his commitment to us. And so I think building block number one is God. Find him. Pursue him. Cuss him out if you have to. He will take it. He will also receive you because he's always knocking. Okay? Building block number one. All right, building block number two. This one actually came through counseling this last year. So I got a kind of a personal counselor helping me walk through another dark moment. I was about to hang up my whistle this last spring. I'd been coaching for 29 years. Again, I was tired. I was broken. Wasn't quite sure what I was doing. And through counseling and advice and prayer, I'm excited. We had a great season. I kind of got filled up in a certain way. But I was told, the tape that I was telling myself for so long was that you can't be selfish. You can't take care of yourself. You can't take a break. You can't go on vacation. You can't get a sabbatical. It has to be feeding and serving others. I was just so far into the servant leadership piece that I was at a point of being broken. And I realized it's okay to be selfish. And I mean that in a positive way. And I want to leave you with that this morning as well. Building block number two, take care of yourself. It is okay to take care of self because your team, those circles that we talked about earlier, they will not grow, they will not thrive if you are not thriving, if you are not growing. And so this can be as simple as the old New Year's resolutions of get up and take a walk. I got hills in my neighborhood. I get up and just go run hills. This could be as simple as get up and listen to some positive music. I tell my football guys, garbage in, garbage out. You become the music you listen to, and these kids listen to absolute crap. It's horrible. And so I think this idea of being selfish and taking care of yourself is key. A couple kind of reminders and ways to go about that is I want to encourage you just to be the best you. Like I said earlier about, God does not make mistakes. You are beautifully and wonderfully made. I want you to be the best version of you. My college football coach shared with us something that's a great visual. So you have the coin, right, at the beginning of a football game, and you flip it. You call heads or tails, and the world's going to tell you you're either a winner or you're a loser. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, okay? Flip it, flip it, flip it. And our football coach says the world has it all wrong. You're not a winner or a loser. I think you can be a winner every time. We're like, well, Frosty, how can we be a winner every time? He's like, well, there's a third element of the coin that no one ever thinks about. What is it? It's the edge of the coin. We've been taught to be winners and losers. We've been taught to you're number one or you're no one. We've been taught to, did you get the deal? Did you get the, cute wife? Did you get the nice house? Winning and losing from a world perspective. And I'm here to tell you that if you just go out there and call the edge, which represents you giving your best shot every day, you will win. The outcome, the byproduct will be amazing. Let's take the game of football, of baseball for a second. A great hitter, right, gets up to bat. He strikes out 7 times. 7 times he's a failure. 7 times he goes back to the dugout. 7 times he did not accomplish getting on base. 3 times he did, and in the Major League Baseball, being a 300 hitter or better is phenomenal. Okay, so let's take some principles around giving your best shot and being a 330 or 300 hitter by just working on self and being the best version of you that you can be. That's all anyone should ever ask, is for you to be the best version of you, okay? What I do most mornings is I look in the mirror and I look at myself and I ask myself, what kind of man do I want to be today? The mirror is a great reflection. We get our hair done, do our teeth, we do all these things, and we kind of just fly by the mirror. I want to encourage you to take that mirror as an action step every morning and talk to yourself. Look yourself in the eye and say, what kind of man do you want to be? What kind of man are you? What kind of man should you have been yesterday? And what kind of man do you want to be today? Because the man in the mirror will not lie to you. You can look him right in the eye. You can have that conversation. And I'd encourage you to use that mirror as a space and place for you to set your day right as you get your day going. Hopefully having ran a hill or two. Hopefully have a little time of devotion. Hopefully have a little time of positive music. Hopefully have a little time and look yourself in the mirror and make a choice to head on out that door and be the best version of you could be. Okay? So there's other principles here on this thing, but I just want to encourage you to hold each other accountable and to love each other. For me, I have a Wednesday morning group of guys that I played college football with. We meet every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock via the phone, and we hold each other accountable. We love each other enough to hold each other accountable. Accountability is key, so hopefully you can find someone in your life that can help you be the version of the man you want to be. Okay, so be selfish today. Focus on self today so you can build the team you want. All right? Next slide. Okay, the next one is family first. And I think as you go back to those little moments, those little circles you have, is to ask yourself, do you put family first? There has been probably decades of time where I have put football first. I have put work first. And my wife is the greatest barometer around to tell me things ain't going right, okay? I call her my little Holy Spirit, because she's going to tap me on the shoulder and say, things aren't going right. And so I think for us, as we look at our family first mindset, it's this idea of what can we do to serve others, what can we do to take care of others, but also, as we just learned a second ago, what kind of things can we do to build up ourselves to take care of others, okay? If you look at the circles in your life, your family is the boot camp. Your wife, your relationship with others, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your parents, that is the boot camp for the other teams that you're going to be a part of. Again, these are the building blocks that we're looking forward to moving forward. If my work life is going to go well, like I said before, my family life needs to be in order. And the things that I do, the way I communicate with others, the way I interact with others, let's not be one thing at home and then something different at work. Let's be the consistent guy that brings those things to the table every time we leave, to the football field, to the boardroom, to whatever it might be. So my dad was the great example. So the first guy on the impact slide, my dad. I have great memories of my dad. He worked different jobs. He worked in the insurance industry. He worked in the oil business for a little bit in the early 80s. That thing tanked. He went to go work at Windermere. But as an 8 or 9 year old kid, I have the fondest memory of my dad coming home from work. Okay, the point where he enters into our home. By the way, I have a practice of I drive into my driveway and I take a deep breath. I turn off the radio and I ask myself, what kind of man do you want to be entering into this home? Just take 2 seconds. Let's go into the home and be the best version of myself I can be. My dad would come home and man, I don't know how loud. It was like a 1980 Ford Taurus. It was maroon, and he had that AM radio tuned up as loud as it could go. I could literally hear it coming up the hill. It's probably sports talk radio. He would come in to the driveway. He would park his car. He would come in, suit and tie, having just put in a long day's work, I'm sure. Okay, he often looked tired. He wouldn't say much. He would walk into our house. He'd go in the back of the bedroom. He would change out of his clothes, and I'm assuming he did the same thing. Come in, we'd have dinner. And here's the thing about my dad. Okay, he ended up being the CEO of Windermere. I think, successful guy, did his thing. As an 8-year-old kid, this is the one thing I remember. We'd have dinner, mom did her thing, we're talking about school, all these things. My dad would sit there, be relatively quiet. He would get up and he'd do the dishes without even being asked. Is that so simple? Without even being asked. Every night. Tired, worn, put in the day, showed up, engaged the family, and he would be a servant leader. He would do the dishes. How simple, how small is doing the dishes? Simple. It impacted me, 8, 9, I'm watching, without even knowing, my dad get up and did the dishes. Well, guess what? In our house, our tradition is you make the dinner, you don't do the dishes. It's a simple thing. It's a simple way to serve. And so my dad showed me at a very young age servant leadership in a simple task. I often talk about this in my business and also with my football team, that how can you serve? How can you outserve each other? On our football team, our seniors put the gear away, not our freshmen. Okay, our seniors clean the bus afterwards, not the freshmen. We're teaching them that it's not a hierarchy. It's not the guy who's the all-state, the guy going to UW, whatever else. It's the guy that wants to serve others. Honestly, I love all my kids, but the kids I love the most on the football team are the guys where, hey, I need the bags put away, and I need this put away. Got you, coach. There's always 2 or 3. Got you, coach. Every time. Same guys. Got you, coach. Well, there's 60 other guys, kind of, yeah, whatever. Those 3 are my studs. Those 3 are my guys. And usually they're like guys that aren't even playing. It's the guys that understand servant leadership. So building block is family first, but also servant leadership is a big key part of that. Okay, we'll go next slide. Okay, last one here is others. So mirror room or window room. And I've talked about mirrors before where you kind of look yourself in the mirror. There's also a different space and place I want you to enter yourself into mentally. There are 2 rooms in your house. One is full of mirrors and one is full of windows. Okay, most of us are stuck in the mirror room. We walk in and all we see is ourselves. What can I get? What can I do? What about me? How much? It's all about me. And I want to challenge you to get yourself out of that mirror room and get into the window room. You go into the window room, what do you see? You see everything outside you. You see everyone outside you. It's a mindset of who can I help? Who do I see? How can I serve? What can I do? So let's break out of that mirror room and get into the window room. Okay. Love, the definition of love, and Frosty taught this to us a long time ago, but I teach this to my kids as they get older. My daughter's now married, but as having a daughter, you got to really teach some of these things specifically to your girls, but also to your boys. Love is a definition that I think is very clear because it's been given to us in the Bible, it's been given to us elsewhere. We use love in a very light way in our society. Love is something or someone you're willing to die for. Literally physical death. I love my wife, I would die for her. My children, I would die for. I love chocolate, I don't love chocolate. I'm not gonna die for chocolate. Okay, prime rib, love it, yeah, I'm not gonna die for it. So let's leverage the truth around love and the things that we're willing to die for. And sometimes it's not just physical death, it's actually emotional death. It's our time, it's our energy. Okay, this whole slide is really about how to take care of others, how to delegate responsibility, but I wanna also leave it with Hutch, to be bold. Let me finish up here with a good story around just being bold with our lives. Because I think that's the challenge as we leave a breakfast like this. How are we going to be bold with what we know? So here's the setting. We're on South Woodby Island, okay? High school football. We're playing Woodby High School, which is one of our cross-water rivals, and we just beat the sausages out of them. It's a rainy night. It's a muddy night. The kids are just drenched. And our guys are beaten by 4 or 5 touchdowns. And in our school, our tradition is to go through the line, give high fives. And as we come back in the line, our tradition is to ask the other team if they want to pray with us. Been doing it for 30 years. And most of the time you get teams that want to. In this night, we're going through the line and their kids are mad. They're down, they're beat, they're swearing at us like, forget you and you Christian freaks, what are you doing? We're kind of doing our thing. And I'm thinking, well, tonight we're not going to win. Meaning we won the scoreboard, but we're not going to win the post-game prayer. And so we go through the line. I take my guys to the back end of the end zone, and I turn around, and we're going to pray, because that's what we do. But there was one guy in our huddle, dressed in pure blue, not a spark of mud on the kid. He had glasses, about 100 pounds, sitting in his helmet. He's kind of sitting there like this, looking at me. And I wasn't connecting what he was doing. I said, son, I think you're in the wrong spot. So think about being bold. He looked at me and says, Coach, I'm not in the wrong spot. You said we're going to pray. This freshman who had never played it down, who probably will never play it down, who looked the part like he should have been a statistician, not a football player, was in my huddle, willing to risk all things. I can imagine what would happen to him in the locker room at school. He was willing to risk all things to be in my huddle on a Friday night at South Woodby to follow his God, to be bold like a lion. This wasn't a sheep, this was a lion. The beautiful part of the story is I turned around, there he was. I said, son, I think you're in the wrong spot. He says, no, coach, you told us we're going to pray. I said, you're right, son, we're going to pray. The beautiful part of the story was there were 4 captains on that football team who saw their teammate come into our huddle, and I saw their body language. They're like, oh man, there's Johnny doing his thing. They had to make a choice. They too had to be bold, and they chose the right thing. They came over and sat down and knelt next to their teammate. It was amazing. But guess what happened? Because of one bold lion, because of 4 captains that are willing to do what was right, their team followed like sheep because their leaders were doing what they were doing. Their entire team came over. Their entire coaching staff came over. And we knelt before the one true God because of one little kid who had never played it down, who didn't have any mud on his face, who had glasses, who shouldn't have been there, because one kid was willing to be as bold as a lion. The beautiful story is I find out that from that one kid with those 4 captains started a Bible study at a public school, and they had guys following God because of one kid, one bold lion. I love that story. It's amazing. So let's be that today. Let's be that bold lion. Let's be that kid. I don't care if you're 6'8", if you're 4'2", go out there and be the lion. All right, we'll go next slide. The last piece I want to leave you with is just this kind of idea of team. And I'm sure you've heard this before. Maybe Kaylin even said it when it was here, but team is the acronym where it is. Together, everyone achieves more. Together, it's not a solo journey that we're on. It's a together journey we're on. Let's be part of great teams where together everyone can truly achieve more when we apply these principles and other things that we know in our lives. This is really an upside down pyramid. You take a pyramid and you have the whole base and there's the top. You're at the bottom. Turn it upside down. It's you. You want to build a great team? Start with you. Want to build a great team? Find a true faith in God. Want to build a great team? Focus on family, be a servant warrior, and wash the dishes. You want to be a great team? Okay, all the things I've talked about. Be bold like a lion. You want a great team? It starts with you. It's the upside down pyramid that builds to the various aspects of all the teams you're a part of. Okay? I learned early on in my relationship with football and Frosty and learning that most people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. You've heard that before. I'll finish with this story and then we'll close it down because of time. I played 2 years at Azusa Pacific where I was an all-state receiver. I was pretty darn good. I go down there and I have a coach that's an absolute, he's a Christian who's coaching, but he's not a Christian coach. He's a yeller, he's a screamer, he'll swear, he'll grab by the face mask because that's how he was coached. He played in the NFL. He was a tough guy and he tore me down and I could barely catch a cold. I was so afraid to fail in front of this guy that I couldn't catch a football anymore mentally. So I transfer out to Pacific Lutheran University in my junior year and I go to football practice, and having only known one college experience, I go to PLU. I get in my receiver line, I'm going across the middle and I drop the football and I'm thinking, oh crap, someone's gonna yell at me. And I hear from across the field, Shapiro, just catch the ball. It was Frosty. Well, that's new. Okay. All right, get back in line, go across the middle, drop the next one. I'm like, okay, he gave me grace once. It's not going to happen again. The voice gets closer. Shapiro, just catch the ball. Pretty logical. Okay, get in line, third time, get in line, go across the middle, drop the third one. It's almost like I'm testing him subconsciously. The voice isn't closer, his arm's on me. He says, son, just catch the ball. You got this. I don't remember ever dropping a football ever again. He used love, not fear. He was a big, strong, shaved head Marine. He would scare the tar out of you if you needed it. But he showed me that we can use fear as a motivator or we can use love as a motivator. I choose love. I choose tough love sometimes with my kids and my players. But let's be that as we leave this morning. Let's be bold like a lion. Let's use love as a motivator. Let's take the deep breath in the parking lot before you go home. Let's go wash some dishes. There's an old song from an old play. It's called Seize the Day. Now is the time to seize the day. Send out the call, the hoorah. Send out the call and join the fray. You guys have a battle today, whatever it is in front of you. Okay, we can win that battle with a great mindset. Yeah. Thank you for listening. I love you guys without even knowing you. I see a bunch of warriors in this room. Okay, and I want you guys to go out from this pregame talk right now to go out there and kick some butt. Okay, let's get it done. Is it hoorah on 3?
Oh, set.
Who on 3? Here we go. 1, 2, 3.